I never thought I'd come back to life after Emily's death. She was my entire universe. The laughter, the smell of coffee in the mornings, the random notes in her bag that she shared with me. On the day the doctors said there was almost no chance, I sat beside her, holding her hand and promised I'd never stop loving her. She died a week after the tragic car accident. My world collapsed and I plunged into emptiness. 2 years passed. 2 years of pain, tears, and endless memories that dragged me down. I kept every photo, every piece of her life. I had a ritual. Every morning coffee, Emily's photo, a quiet conversation with her. She was my anchor, my moral support, my memory. But then Sarah appeared. Sarah was the opposite of Emily in many ways. Vibrant, impulsive, with an infectious laugh. She entered my life slowly, almost unnoticed. At first, we were just friends, talking about work, books, movies we loved. And gradually, her hand touched mine, and I felt my heart beating again. The fear that I was betraying Emily's memory battled with the desire to feel alive once more. Our relationship grew quickly. We spent evenings together, dined out, watched movies, laughed. But one day, Sarah noticed my habit, every morning looking at Emily's photos, sometimes talking to them. "Are you still living in the past?" she asked one day, looking at me with an expression as if trying to figure out where I really was. I tried to explain, "It's memory, I can't just erase her from my life." Sarah frowned. "That's not memory. That's a wall that's stopping us from moving forward. You're choosing her, not me." I fell silent. It hurt, but I understood she was right. I saw her eyes, a mix of despair and disappointment. The next day, she said, "I can't be with someone who lives in the past. If you want to be with me, you need to do something about those photos." I looked at her and thought about how I could erase Emily. It felt like betrayal, but at the same time, I knew if I didn't do it, I'd lose Sarah. Honestly, my hands were shaking the first time I pressed delete. I scrolled through the photos, one by one, and with each click I felt a part of my soul disappearing. Photos from our first trip, the day Emily said yes to me, the moment she first drew a caricature for me on the kitchen wall, everything vanished. Sarah stood nearby, her eyes shining with satisfaction. But instead of relief, I felt horror. Deep, piercing horror. "Done," I said quietly without lifting my eyes. Sarah smiled, but her smile felt foreign to me. It seemed victorious, but there was no warmth in it. A day passed, and I noticed the emptiness that had formed inside me. Not the emptiness after Emily's death, but a different one. The emptiness of betrayal. I had betrayed her memory for a life with another woman, and that thought tormented me with every hour. At work, I tried to distract myself. Colleagues noticed my tension. I tried to joke, laugh, but thoughts of Sarah and Emily's photos wouldn't let go. Every photo, every memory like a ghost following me. On the third night, Sarah came to my place. She sat on the couch, hugging her knees, and quietly said, "I know it's hard for you, but now you're with me. You made a choice." I looked at her and tried to smile, but it wasn't a smile. It was a mask so she wouldn't see how I was falling apart inside. "Yes," I said, "I made a choice." And that's when I first realized that life with Sarah would never replace Emily. I tried to move forward, but with every minute, I felt like I was losing not just the past, but a part of myself. Several weeks passed after I deleted Emily's photos. At first glance, everything went as usual. Sarah smiled, we went to the movies, dined in restaurants, sometimes met with her friends. But inside me, a sense of emptiness grew, as if I had betrayed not only the past but myself. Every morning, I woke up with a heaviness in my chest. I tried to hide it from Sarah, but she sensed it. "You're becoming withdrawn again," she said one day, looking straight into my eyes. "Something's wrong." I hesitated. "Everything's fine, just a lot of work." She raised an eyebrow. "Work, or someone in your head?" I sighed. She was right. I wanted to tell her everything, open my heart, admit that I couldn't let go of Emily, even after all that happened. But the fear that she'd leave if she knew the truth paralyzed me. A few days later, my old friend David came over. We hadn't seen each other in a while, and he was the first to notice something was off. "Bro, you look like someone's killing you from the inside," he said, sitting across from me. "You're still thinking about her, aren't you?" I nodded, trying not to show emotion. "You took a step forward with Sarah, but inside, you're still with Emily," he continued. "You can't ignore that." I tried to argue, but I knew he was right. That evening, I came home and saw Sarah in an unusually silent mood. She was sitting on the couch, staring at her phone, and I felt a chill of anxiety. "What's wrong?" I asked. She looked up, her eyes glistening with tears. "I found an old flash drive. It had all your photos with Emily. I know you deleted them." I felt my heart sink. "Sarah, you thought you could erase everything and be happy with me." Her voice trembled with emotion. "You betrayed her memory. You betrayed me by pretending it was just the past." I wanted to explain, to say I did it for her, but the words stuck in my throat. "I thought I was doing the right thing, for us," I said, but my words sounded empty even to me. Sarah stood up, came closer, her face near mine. "If you can't live without her in your heart, how do you plan to live with me?" Silence filled the room, and for the first time I felt like my new life might collapse. The next day I went to work to distract myself, but a new blow awaited me there. Colleagues started noticing my tension, and rumors began to spread. Someone saw me talking to David about the past. Someone noticed my pensiveness. "Are you still grieving over your wife?" one colleague asked me, almost in a whisper, when we met at the coffee machine. "Can't you let go?" I nodded, but inside, guilt surged again. Every look, every phrase, like a needle reminding me that I had betrayed Emily and possibly Sarah too. In the evening at home, Sarah was cold. She didn't speak, just sat buried in her phone. I tried to start a conversation. "Let's just talk." "Talk?" she interrupted me. "You think talking will fix what you did?" I fell silent. Words didn't help, and for the first time, I understood that actions have consequences that can't just be erased. That night I lay in the darkness, listening to her breathing beside me. She was asleep, but I couldn't. Memories of Emily, the photos, the promises I made to myself swirled in my head, and suddenly it hit me. I had lost more than I could imagine. The next day, I decided to meet with a psychologist that David recommended. It was my first attempt to find some way out. "I can't cope with the past," I admitted. "I betrayed her memory, and now I'm losing myself in Sarah." The psychologist nodded. "You're trying to live with guilt and build a new life at the same time. That's impossible without acknowledgement and acceptance. You need to figure out who you are and what's more important to you, memory or the present." I left the office with a heavy heart. Understanding came slowly. If I couldn't accept the past and my actions, the new life was doomed. That same night, Sarah came to me. "Did you meet with the psychologist?" "Yes," I replied, "and I realized we're both suffering." She sat down next to me and quietly said, "I want to be with you, but you have to understand that I'm not Emily. And you also have to understand that the past can't be erased with a delete button." We were silent. The room was quiet, but in that silence lay realization. Our love requires more than just photos and memories. It requires honesty, understanding, and readiness for pain. The day after the talk with the psychologist, I decided to take a pause in my relationship with Sarah to sort myself out. But life, as always, didn't wait. In the morning, the phone rang. Laura's name, Sarah's friend, flashed on the screen. I wasn't ready for her call, but something inside told me this wouldn't be easy. "Hi," Laura said with a slight note of anxiety in her voice. "Sarah told me about the photos, and I just wanted to understand what's going on." "Laura," I hesitated, "it's more complicated than it seems." "I understand," she continued, "but you know what's the scariest? People around see your behavior differently than you think. Listen, Sarah says you're withdrawn, that you're not letting her be happy. And you know what? I see it too." Her words hit me. I realized that my internal conflict had turned external. Friends, colleagues, and even Sarah's close ones were watching my every step. I'm trying to fix my mistakes. I tried to explain, but my voice trembled. Sometimes words aren't enough anymore, Laura said. Actions matter more. And if you don't start acting honestly, the situation might spiral out of control. I hung up feeling a chill to my bones. Anxiety flared inside me. What if Sarah leaves? What if my friends stop understanding? What if I lose both the past and the present? In the evening, Sarah came home later than usual. She looked tired and irritated, but inside I saw hidden pain. "Did you talk to Laura?" she asked, without lifting her head. "Yes," I replied, trying to stay calm. "I knew," she said quietly. "She warned me that your actions could destroy us." I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I wanted to scream, explain that my actions were driven not by indifference but by fear of losing control over the past and present at the same time. "Sarah," I began, "I'm doing this not because I don't value you. I just can't let go of Emily completely." She looked up, and I saw a mix of pain and disappointment. "I knew you'd be honest with me. But honesty sometimes destroys more than lies," she said. "I love you, but I can't live in a world where you're constantly living in the past." At that moment, I realized we had reached a critical point. I stood before a choice: either fight for the new relationship honestly or continue pretending and slowly destroy everything around. The following days were filled with tension. Every interaction with Sarah became a test. I tried to be attentive, caring, but inside me, fear still lived. One evening, while we were having dinner together, Sarah said, "You know, I can understand your pain, but I don't want to be part of your compromises with the past. I want a real man beside me, not someone who lives on memories." I was silent. My heart was torn by contradictions. Love for Sarah, guilt toward Emily, fear of losing both. "I need time," I said finally. "Time to figure myself out, to understand what's more important to me." "I understand," she replied quietly. "But don't hope we can go back to normal life without changes. Everything we're building now requires full honesty." Those words were like a cold shower. I realized that if I wanted to keep Sarah, I needed to accept the past, my mistakes, and honestly face the new relationship. That same evening, I met with David again. We sat in a bar, and I tried to explain the whole complexity of the situation. "David, I'm afraid I'll lose Sarah if I'm honest," I said. "And if you're not honest, you'll lose her anyway," he replied. "Look, bro, truth can be painful, but lies destroy even faster." His words echoed in my head. I realized there was no way back. I had to act and act honestly. The day after the talk with David, I realized it's time to act. No more hiding the truth, stashing photos, or playing with Sarah's emotions. I invited her over to my place to discuss everything openly. "Sarah," I began when she entered, "we need to talk honestly. No secrets, no excuses." She sat on the couch, lowering her gaze. I saw her hands trembling, and it heightened the tension. "I'm ready to listen," she said quietly. "But if you say something that breaks me, I want to be honest," I continued. "All this time I've hidden part of the past from you, Emily, my feelings for her. I deleted her photos for you, and that was wrong." Sarah looked up, her eyes filling with tears. "You deleted the photos?" she asked, barely holding back the tremble. "All this time?" "Yes," I nodded. "I was afraid they were getting in our way, but now I understand. That was dishonest. I'm living in the past and trying to control it, not accept it." She took a deep breath, as if gathering strength, and said, "Do you realize that honesty can hurt more than lies?" "Yes," I replied, "and I'm ready to bear the consequences." Silence stretched out. We both understood this was the moment of truth. "And now what?" she asked quietly. "I don't know," I admitted. "But I want to be honest with you. I don't want to build a relationship on secrecy or fear." Sarah stood up, came to me, and placed her hand on my shoulder. "Then let's be honest with each other," she said. "But that means everything will change. If we want to continue, we need to start from a clean slate." And at that moment I realized, a clean slate doesn't always mean happiness. Sometimes it opens wounds that never fully heal. The following days became a real test. We tried to live together, talk openly, but every word was like a taut string. One wrong move and it snaps. Sarah became more withdrawn. I saw her checking her phone, reading messages, trying to understand the boundaries of trust. I, in turn, couldn't let go of the guilt toward Emily. One evening, Laura called again. "Are you coping?" she asked. "Sarah shares her fears with me." "Laura," I hesitated. "I'm trying, honestly." "Honesty is good," she said, "but not always enough. You have to be ready for the consequences." Her words sounded like a verdict. I realized that any mistake now would cost both of us. In the evening, when Sarah came back from work, I noticed she looked especially tired. "Something happened?" I asked. "Just a tough day," she replied, "and it's hard for me to trust." I came closer and tried to hug her. She pulled away. "Please don't pressure me," she said. "I need time." I nodded, understanding that at this stage, patience was the only thing that could save us. But inside me, a storm of emotion still raged. Love, guilt, fear, hope. The next day, deciding to act, I wrote a letter to Emily. Simple, honest. Gratitude for the past, explanation of my feelings, admission that now I want to be honest with Sarah. Her response was unexpected. "I understand. I wish you happiness. Let it be honest happiness." I read those lines and for the first time felt relief. But immediately came the realization. Relief comes with new anxiety. Now everything depended on how Sarah would accept my steps. In the evening, we sat down for dinner again. I tried to be light, but tension hung in the air. "Sarah," I began, "I wrote to Emily, and I want you to know that's the past. It doesn't define our present." "I know," she replied, "but sometimes the past hits the present harder than we expect." We sat in silence, both immersed in thoughts. Inside me, the understanding of reality became sharp as a blade. True love isn't the absence of pain, but the ability to go through it together. But fate decided to test us even harder. The next day, Sarah got a call from her family. They found out about the letter to Emily. Tension exploded when her father arrived at our home with anger and reproaches. "Do you want to destroy everything we've built?" he shouted. "How could you allow this?" Sarah tried to explain that it was the past, that I was acting honestly, but her father wouldn't listen. He saw only his truth, his morals. I stood next to Sarah and said, "We're adults. I've taken responsibility for my actions. We'll live with the consequences, but honesty isn't a crime." The words caused shock. Sarah's father didn't expect such directness. He fell silent, and for the first time, I felt I could stand by my decisions despite external pressure. But the internal conflict didn't go away. We both understood that the path to harmony was just beginning, and ahead lay more pain, compromises, and tests of trust. The days after Sarah's father's visit turned into a test of endurance. Every conversation with her, every glance at past photos, everything seemed like a trap. I saw how she tried to hold herself together, but her eyes betrayed fatigue and pain. "I thought we could handle it," she said one evening as we sat silently at the kitchen table. "But I'm tired, it's all too hard." "I understand," I replied, trying to be gentle. "We're both tired, but isn't honesty worth it?" She shook her head. "Honesty isn't always happiness. Sometimes it destroys more than hidden lies." I felt a chill of fear. Sarah's words cut my heart, but I understood she was right. Sometimes love can't withstand the test of truth. The next day, she packed to go to her parents. "I need time," she said, gathering her things. "I don't know if I can forgive." I tried to hold her back, but I understood you can't force someone to stay. Love, if held by force, turns into pain. I want you to know I love you, I said, and if you ever want to come back, I'll be waiting. She smiled sadly. Thank you, but right now I have to go. When the door closed, silence engulfed the house. I sat on the couch and for the first time in a long while felt emptiness. Questions swirled in my head. Did I do the right thing? Could all this have been avoided? Do we have a chance for the future? Several weeks passed. Sarah didn't call, didn't write. We both tried to move on, but every day reminded me of what was lost. Sometimes I looked at old photos of Emily, at their smiles and happy moments, and felt a mix of longing and relief. At the same time, I imagined what my life with Sarah could have been. Simple, honest, but destroyed by circumstances and the past. I started working more, diving into projects and meetings, trying to fill the emptiness with busyness. But even the most successful days were tinged with sadness. One evening I received a letter from Sarah, short but poignant. I understand that honesty was necessary. I appreciate your directness, but our paths diverge. I wish you happiness. I sat in the darkness, holding the letter in my hands, and felt a strange mix of bitterness and relief. Honesty left scars, but it was the only choice I could make with a clear conscience. Several months passed. I met new people, tried to build new relationships, but memories of Sarah and Emily were always there. They became part of me, a lesson that couldn't be forgotten. Sometimes I wondered, did I make the right choice? But I understood, living with lies would have been worse. Every step, every decision was complicated, but they shaped me as a person. I learned to accept pain, realize responsibility for my actions, and understand that love isn't just happiness, but readiness to accept the consequences of honesty. The story didn't end romantically or ideally. It's bitter like autumn after rain. But in that bitterness was truth. And truth, no matter how hard, is the only thing that makes us human. I remained alone, with memories, with lessons, with hope that one day I could trust and love again, without hiding myself or concealing the past.